The Coleman Grant provided Northwest College students with the opportunity to network with local entrepreneurs and business people through field trips and guest speakers.
How many of you were at the college when I gave a presentation? We manufacture catheter leg bag supports. And those of you that were there know that I started because I had a surgical accident when we had our third child. My bladder was cut, and so I had to thought about it for years, and then developed this product that exists now. And there's nothing that was done prior to that, so that's why I invented this product.
Students were invited to attend a breakfast, lunch, or dinner networking session to learn about internships and ask questions to entrepreneurs.
My question is, where do you receive or gather financing to start a small business?
The issues come when you're just a small business, is that a bank is going to require you to have a minimum of 20% down if you're looking at a business, and if it's a $200,000 building, that's $40,000 that.
Well, plus your operating capital.
Plus you have to have the operating capital. We're going to make sure that you have all that. So people think of going to the bank, and there are some great programs out there, SBA, which allows for a little bit less of a down payment, and will, if there's a little bit more of a risk entailed to it, will mitigate it and allow a bank to then be able to finance. But that's where people start out when they think about, well, let's just go to a bank first to start out my financing. And you do, there's a couple things you got to do, have that extra money to come in, and that might be kind of hard starting off. Number two is your credit also. And you always want to make sure your past credit history, if you have any ghosts out there or something that causes, get those taken care of, so that when you do go to a bank, we're going to look at you, because we're in a climate right now where it is difficult to finance.
I just saved money and invested as I could, and eventually bought the building and did stuff like that. But I used financing a lot. For projects and for buildings and stuff like that, but also through what I would call conservative practices, I've been able to pay everything off and acquire everything I've got like that. Virtually running. I keep lines of credit because I have to have it on some jobs, but mostly paid off and stuff. But it's just slowly building and going at that rate. And I never, starting very small. It would take a lot of money to start my business right now.
Hi guys.
Oh yeah, I grew up in Toronto.
When you remember that deal with that guy you bought it from, he was going to help you build boots, and he was going to hang on to the $750 for the down payment. Was that all by word? Did you guys have a written contract?
We had a written contract, and he went down. And I didn't know about a lot of things, But he went down and he says, I'll sign a clause that states that I will not open up a business for the next 7 years to compete against you. I thought, man, this is all right, this is nice. But I never dreamed of it. But now, if I was going to sell my business to you tomorrow, I'd put that in there. Just because it would make you feel better, knowing that I'm not going to move across the street or down the street or wherever it might be, 2 miles down the road or whatever, and start another business to compete against you.
Somebody said you didn't have a formal business education. Do you think that hurts you in the long run? Would it have been better for you to go out and get that formal business education to further your business, or do you think you did just as well as not having it?
My son told me right off the bat, you need to write a business plan. And I was done with that. I knew nothing about business plans. But he did. And he still is helping me. My other son, who has a business degree, is what I call my tech person. I can call him up and he can, I'm having troubles with my computer or whatever, and he talks me through it. And so it is good to have. Mm-hmm. But I do think too, you've got to show people that you're willing to get up early in the morning, you're willing to work hard.
If you went through a business education, you've seen a lot of resources, you know where to look. You've had a little experience in a web page and all that. I didn't have that. Obviously, when we started, we weren't talking web pages. But I think that formal education gives you a lot of resources, a lot of direction to look for things when you don't have it, because you're gonna come up just like I did on not knowing how to do it. But you've got just an advantage there over what I did, trying to figure it out on my own and not having the places to go. I mean, you have a network already, and just resources that I didn't have when I started.
Fewer mistakes then?
Well, I don't know if
Because you have, well, you know what I'm saying, I mean.
You have better resources to help you make decisions.
Mhm.
An internship should be a viable learning experience for the student. It's just not free labor. And every business I've ever worked in, everywhere I've ever worked, there's always those jobs that need to be done that you put off because you never have time to do those projects that you'd like to do an in-depth study on something, but you never have time to do it. It always gets pushed to the back. Those are the projects that are perfect for internships. We had a lady in here this morning that is writing an operations manual for her business. And she's kind of at a loss how to do that, trying to do it in the middle of everything else she does. That would be a perfect project for an intern. We've had businesses that wanted to do surveys, that they've hired students to do those. Typically, internships are unpaid. We have some paid internships. As long as the students are getting a good experience out of that, it's all right to offer them an unpaid internship. There's lots of other ways to, the federal law doesn't make you pay an intern, but there's other ways to compensate them. You could, it's common practice in the summertime to offer an internship that maybe they get $250 in the beginning, $250 mid-summer, and a $500 payment at the end of the summer if they stay to a specified date. So it gives the student an experience, it gives them a little bit of cash, and it gives you an employee that's willing to learn. It's also very common practice that people host interns at their site as an interview type deal. My son used to work for Jackson National, and every summer they hired 50 interns, and they were paid positions. They hired 50, and everybody knew that at the end of the summer there were 3 paid positions that were competitive that would be offered to those interns. So it's a way for the employer to really try that student out and see how they're going to fit into the organization, what their aptitude is in that business, and then decide whether they're going to hire them. It costs a lot of money to train someone, but more and more often people they hire someone and it's the wrong match, and it is really hard to fire someone. The laws have it, so it's really, really hard to fire someone. So what that ends up is your internship is like an 8-week interview. So if you're in an internship, always think of that. I'm on an interview, I'm on an interview. This is how I would act and how I should act. If your internship does not work into a job, it works into great contacts where they'll say, if you were interning for Van and he thought you were really good at what you were doing, he would, when people in his circle are looking for someone, he'd say, I had this student from the college in the shop and they did a great job, and I wasn't able to give them a job, but if you're looking, you should get a hold of them. And those are the ways. Most jobs aren't found through reading the classified ads in the newspaper. They're found from personal contacts. You know someone that knows someone that wants to hire someone just like you. And you have to always remember that. They say that in a small town like this, don't go to the grocery store in your sweats. Always dress like you would, like people would think, oh, that person would fit into my workplace, because in a small town, they don't, they recognize that, and they see you all sorts of places, and they want people that are professional and look professional in their businesses.
And like,
They're